everybody, thanks for joining us. And today I'm going to be showing you our #1 strategy for colds and flus. And this is the same thing that I do myself if I get the first signs of that scratchy, dry throat, or the postnasal drip, or the sinus congestion, or even if I'm just getting the first signs of like fatigue and head cold or anything like that. The very first signs, this is when you want to jump on this treatment. And this is the same thing I do with my kids, and I'm actually going to show you how to do it with your kids, because this is a really important one for them to learn right from the get-go. What I'm going to show you today actually has some pretty good research back behind it, and I'll show you some of those studies as they pop up. But most recently, even over the last, I think it was the last year or two, they did a study specifically looking at a dramatic decrease in hospitalization from COVID if they were found to do this within the first 24 hours of a quote-unquote diagnosis of it. So I would say this extrapolates from the previous research on all colds and flus. So if you get this done right away at the first signs, you can really start to mitigate some of the problems that can happen. So this is what it is. Simple enough, it is actually a neti pot. And if you guys have not actually seen this, I'm going to show you a couple different options. And what I want to break you down is some of the different options, how to actually do it, how to do it with your kids and teach them how to do it, and then how to mitigate one of the major troubles that comes up is that if people are so congested they can't get it through. I'm going to show you a strategy that will work to help to relieve that and actually get the benefits from it. So one of the reasons why I think neti pot is so effective is because it's one of the only treatments that actually moves right through this whole sinus canal and can get rid of a big load of buildup of either bacterial or viral or pathogenic material. So even when we do nasal sprays, we're only getting so far. The neti pot actually takes it all the way up and out. And so outside of even colds and flus, you'll see if you deal with allergies and seasonal congestion, or if you're just sensitive to a lot of the pollutants that you pick up, depending on where you're living and what we're being exposed to, one of the best ways to actually lower the overall load. That's key. When we are dealing with some sort of a pathogen, we want to be able to lower the load so that our immune system may actually get on top of it and then deal with it effectively. So this is one of the better treatments. Now, this is actually not a neti pot. Okay, this is a HydroSense, and you might see a lot of variations of these. There's a lot of different degrees of even how strong the spray can be. Okay, and you would literally close off one, plug this in, and then spray and suck it up. Now this can be effective as just sort of decongesting the area, and sometimes you'll have like eucalyptus and saline and stuff like that too, so it can help, but it doesn't go all the way through. And what we found sometimes is that with our kids, sometimes this can be effective, but if they are not used to blowing properly, sometimes it kind of sits around there and then they just kind of suck it back up. So you got to make sure if you're using this that then you're also training your kids to make sure that once it loosens to blow it all out really effectively. I will still use this sometimes if I'm so congested that I want to just try and get a little bit of something to loosen up so I can eventually then do the neti pot. So that sometimes can be effective.
Just a mother's input in the background here. I'm not a fan of that for kids because I feel like it sets them up in this pattern of sucking in as opposed to blowing out. So especially if you have younger ones that you're trying to teach to blow their mucus out, you might want to stick with the neti pot. And we'll show you, we started to do neti pot with our little ones very early. With my son, who's 18 now, I had him start at around 3 years old, and with our girls as well, 3-4 years old. So it is definitely possible to get them used to using the neti pot, so it's really just not a big deal. They know at the first sign of feeling sore in the throat, they'll come and tell you, and then we all know that it's okay, neti pot time.
Yeah, so try it out, try the different ones and see what ultimately works best for you guys. With neti pot, you'll see different options. I like just this classic sort of tea kettle looking one where you just put it up and through gravity as you tilt it, it will go up one nose and out the other side. This is one I'm going to show you. There's mechanical ones like this where you actually hit the button and it will go up like that. So you'd hear, plug it in, and then it'll come right out the other side. Those can be really good sometimes as well. But ultimately, I like the feeling of just the plain gravity one. There's other ones by NeilMed that are in a bottle and you squeeze.
Make sure you blow your nose after you do that, because it's a really effective way of loosening and clearing the mucus.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll see the NeilMed ones where you can actually squeeze it. Those work well too, but I generally like the feeling of this. Now, I've already filled this one up. You'll see there's a level on here. Fill it up with distilled water or with a good filtration water, like if you have a reverse osmosis, or we use a Berkey and we'll clean that out. So you want to have filtered water, preferably distilled. Fill it up to wherever you need to, and then boil some of the distilled water, and then add enough in there to create a nice lukewarm or slightly warmer solution. I like mine about as warm as I can take it. I find that also loosens things up a little bit. But for the kids, I generally keep it at a lukewarm so that you can just make sure you test it and make sure that it's just warm on your finger before you give it to them.
Or on your wrist.
Or on the inside of your wrist. Then we add the saline. So you got different options. You'll see something like this. These ones are pre-done, okay? So it comes in a little package. You just rip that open and put it in. And these you can get regular ones, or you can get like stronger ones where they're about double the solution. Now that can be a little bit more burny, so I don't use that with kids very often, but for myself, if I was having lots of congestion, I wouldn't hesitate to take 2 regular ones or one of the extra strength ones. What you're going to see in them is that they're pH balanced. So that means that they have a sodium chloride, a potassium chloride, and using a sodium bicarbonate. That combination tends to be the most perfect for the nasal canal. The other option would be something like this, where it comes as a salt. Okay, you're going to get a spoonful. It'll have a little scooper like this. It's usually about a 1/4 teaspoon. You pour that right in. And then you just swish it around a little bit in order for the salt to dissolve. And it usually dissolves pretty quick once you start. Once it's dissolved, then you're going to put the neti pot hose into the one side, tilt your head, keep your mouth open because sometimes it will actually come through the mouth too, which is fine. Just take a breath in, breathe out, plug it in, let it go all the way out one side, about half of the bottle, and then switch and put it through the other side. So this is what it's going to look like.
So as Jason demonstrates, so he's breathing, but then once you actually start to have the liquid working through, you don't want to breathe. You want to just breathe, if you need to, through the mouth. Again, through the mouth so that the liquid, the saline solution, can work itself through. Personally, I like to blow my nose out after clearing one nostril before going to the other one, but again, see what works for you and your children.
Now, once you're done, what I usually recommend is once it's run through, don't necessarily blow right away. So what you would like to do is let it to sink up there a little bit. You want the saline to actually stay up there a bit because that's the disinfectant. Saline by itself is a really powerful antimicrobial. So what we've done is we've just loosened everything up with the heat and with the saline. If you are mucousy, what you will see is you'll see clumps of mucus coming out.
What do we call that?
And with the kids, we call them snot slugs. So we're looking for any snot slugs, and you will literally see like clumps coming out. It's one of the best way to really clean this out. I might sometimes linger with this for about 2 minutes, and then I lightly blow and let it start to all come out because you will loosen it up. Sometimes people feel more comfortable blowing out right away. See what feels best for you. Just be careful not to blow super hard right off the bat because you can sometimes hurt your ears. And blowing properly means blocking one side, gently blowing out that side, then blocking the other side and gently blowing out the other side of the nose.
Do you want to demonstrate blowing the nose?
And then switching.
And parents who are watching this, you actually have to demonstrate this for the kids. It's best to demonstrate it for the kids and then have them do it and help them along the same process.
Sometimes people will have so much congestion. I've had this. I've had where I've had like a sinus infection and it has been, or bad allergies, and it's been so packed that it literally feels like I have no nose. And Taya used to say to me, well, go do neti pot. And I'm like, that would be a great idea, except nothing will go through. It's like I do this and nothing goes through. It's so blocked. What I found was that if I incorporated a specific breathing exercise called Buteyko breathing, where I basically breathe in, then I breathe out, and then I hold the out breath as long as I possibly can. And I would be holding this often for like 40 seconds, you know.
Would you be breathing in and out through the nose?
No. So you take a breath in, then a breath out through the mouth, because I couldn't breathe through the nose, and then I hold my breath out. I hold that as long as I possibly can. And what happens is in that breath hold, you actually release nitric oxide, which comes up and starts to dilate the sinus passages. And all of a sudden you start to get a little bit of an opening. And usually what you can tell is that you feel a little bit of that unblocking feeling in your sinuses. And that's when you can do this. So when I'm really blocked up, I will actually breathe in, breathe out. And then I actually hold this in my nose like this as I'm holding my breath on the out breath. And I will just wait. And sometimes I will hold there and then I get to about 40 seconds or so and then I have to take a breath in. Then I breathe in through my mouth. But usually what happens is then there's a little space that opens and then I can actually start to get the water to trickle out the other side. It's one of the best ways I've found to open this up to get it to drain. Now there's a couple of other manual osteopathic techniques that we use that we show you in the course and go through to get in more detail that you can also do to start to open up those sinus passages and get them to start to open.
And this is also a basic way of using the neti pot. There will be other additional simple ingredients that you can actually put in the neti pot as well for the nasal irrigation that would be super effective. If you want to share a tiny little bit about that before we
there's a number of things. Even in some of the studies they looked at, what I'm talking to you about, the 8.5 times it lowered the risk of hospitalization was just doing saline. So saline itself is incredibly powerful and a great place to start, and getting your kids even used to doing neti pot as well as yourself getting used to doing neti pot if you haven't done it before. But you can incorporate specific ingredients. There's about 3 major ones that we do that help to alkalinize and also help to have very, very powerful disinfectant properties that just like supercharge your neti pot into the next level.
And I think that's great for the first video, and then maybe we'll do a follow-up for the kids one as well. That'll be coming up next.
All right, I hope you guys enjoy that, and we will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.